Art One-on-One with Mr. Burgher.
Welcome to another episode of Art One-on-One. I'm Nichole Jordan, your host, alongside Mr. Burgher, your professional artist and master educator.
You're the host now.
Well,
have you been
host, boss, whatever. It's the same thing.
I think you've demoted yourself.
How's that demoting myself? It's the same thing, essentially.
Titles. Potato.
Titles have mattered to you, not so much to me.
I don't know. Maybe. Anyway. I mean, titles can be a big deal. Maybe
to some people.
To some people. Anyway. Clearly we are in a alternative setting yet again. Dealing with yours, theirs, and ours, and everything else in between, and life and situations. So we will be coming from this location, well, this week. We'll see what happens next week.
Yeah, who knows?
Just go with the flow. Who cares? We're getting it out there for you. So, I mean, if we're not too worked up about it, hopefully you're not either. Out there in pod land.
Podcast land. So
anyway, we're just here to talk a little art and give you a little whatever, a little art info as we go.
If you can't tell, it's late at night here when we're filming, when we're recording. Is filming a thing? Filming not a thing anymore.
Not anymore because you're not using film at all. It's
recording.
You're recording.
Recording.
But I mean, to be technical, which I try not to be too technical about certain things. Like, if you're going to make spaghetti, which any noodles with any sauce is spaghetti.
That's what I call it.
But it's not.
It's pasta.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I digress.
You are very literal.
I can be.
I think people can probably pick that up in your videos too.
You think so?
I would. Yeah, I would think so.
All right. Well, maybe. I don't know. Here's what I think we should do, Pod Boss. I think we should contact the art. The what do we call it?
Ask the art guides.
Ask the art guides for guidance. Yeah, we need to ask the art guides for guidance on this conversation and try to zero in on where we're going. I
agree. We're kind of rambling right now.
So,
all right. I
think that's what we got to do.
Ask the art guides is back for week 2.
Week 2, again, let us know what you think about this particular segment. These are a great set of art oracle cards from our friends at Lawrence King Publishing, and they've got it's a good quality set. You can check it out. We found them at the Kansas City, in Kansas City at the Nelson Atkins Museum. You could probably find them at just about any shop or whatnot. You order them online, I'm sure. But anyway, they are the art oracle cards, and it's a high quality card. They're really nice. They got really cool graphics on a lot of really cool artists, and it's it is what it is. Take it as you want, but anyway.
So we're picking a card. We're asking the art guides what our topic, or to guide our topic of conversation.
To guide the topic of conversation.
Okay. All right, so here's our card.
All right, so the card is Jean-Michel Basquiat. And as with these particular oracle cards, there is a life, a work, and an inspiration component to it, correct?
Yep. And we tended to focus on one. So I'm going to look at... I like the inspiration on this one. It's good work can come from bad habits. So you would know how this relates to...
Right. So Jean-Michel Basquiat, good work coming from bad habits. Jean-Michel Basquiat had what you might call a little bit of a drug problem. He ended up dying of a heroin overdose at the age of 27, and is a member of the infamous 27 Club, where Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, lots of usually,
so you're not just talking artists.
Usually musicians are, like they call musicians members of the 27 Club, but they're basically like Jimi Hendrix, died of a drug overdose. Janis Joplin, if I can say all the syllables, died of a drug overdose. But there were writers and other individuals that are in that 27 Club, so to speak, which I don't know, might not be the greatest club to be a part of, but
probably not.
No, I would say no. But they're artists that made big strides at a young age, died very young, and obviously Basquiat was known for making great artwork, and
I know very little about him.
A lot of his, and what I would say to you and what I would encourage you to do is to go right up here and click on this link to the video that I did on Jean-Michel Basquiat, which has a great introduction to it. Kim Fields, in the original video, Kim Fields, who was Tootie in The Facts of Life, did the introduction to my Jean-Michel.
I think I have watched that then, because you've showed me that.
Yeah.
Intro. Yeah.
Well, you might have seen the introduction.
Not the whole
Maybe
video.
that's it. I don't know. Maybe
I know he started out in graffiti. I remember that.
Yeah. Graffiti. Yep. Started out with graffiti art as Samo or Samo, and then evolved into his work with Andy Warhol and kind of the pop art scene, graffiti art, and incorporating a lot of that grit sort of art of the street in New York, predominantly into what he was doing.
Because he didn't go to art school, right?
No, I mean,
it's just like
he was kind of in high school. He went to a special school for artist type people that struggled with, certain aspects of like a normal high school routine. He just didn't kind of fit into that, so he went to a special school for artists in high school, and then kind of got into some trouble with various aspects of his life. His mom had some mental health issues. His dad struggled to keep him on the straight and narrow. He had issues, and eventually became a street artist, and on and on and on. But anyway,
it reminds me of the I don't know why I thought of this, but the quote. Have you ever heard the quote by Theodore Roosevelt? It's "Do what you can with what you've got where you're at." Have you ever heard that?
I've heard that.
That's what it makes me think of. That's what I'm picking up from that card in our guidance for today.
Well, and I think that he's one that, not like Teddy Roosevelt at all, in my mind, but definitely an artist who made fantastic pieces of artwork and had horribly bad habits. But, I mean,
he made the best of what he could. That was Theodore Roosevelt wasn't. I wasn't saying that he was like him. Being
a heroin addict and all of that, and the dealing with a lot of the things that he dealt with. Being a black artist, and trying to focus on making his way into the art scene as very much an outsider, being an outcast in that way.
And isn't that kind of why Andy Warhol kind of took him under his wing or whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, and there was a lot of animosity there too. He took him under his wing, and then it was like, oh well, here's Andy Warhol and his protege, and then he kind of was seen as the student as opposed to his equal, and so there was some friction there, and they did some shows together, and they did some collaborative pieces together, and Andy Warhol died of a fairly routine medical procedure. I think he was having like his gallbladder out or something like that, and he died. And he had a lot of other issues. Andy Warhol did, but at any rate, when Andy Warhol died, it kind of set Basquiat over the edge with, thinking about the things that he wanted to have happen and the things that didn't happen and those sorts of things. And
so Andy Warhol passed away before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that they say, and what do I know? I color for a living, but they say that it was Andy Warhol's death that sent him over the edge on a drug binge and trying to forget and medicate himself and all of those horrible things that you hear that people do with drugs or whatnot. And unfortunately, he became a sad statistic. And but again, his legacy, his life, his work.
Okay, so of Basquiat's works,
right.
did he have any that were super popular or that sold for?
The one thing about his work, and a lot of artists that make this type of work, they are steadily increasing in value. He sold his first painting that he sold to Blondie from, Debbie Harry from Blondie, and he sold it for $200, and now and he was known for having sold one of the most valuable, one of the most highest auction priced works in history. So he's
really
broken records with it, and so his work is very, very valuable.
Which is sad because he didn't get to see that.
Well, and it's one of those things where he sold those works off, and it becomes kind of an interesting thing, especially with artists and things like that. Like Pablo Picasso. Pablo Picasso makes millions every year. And he's been dead since before I was born, since before you were born, and before both of us.
Okay.
He's been dead long.
It's such a big difference. A year is a big difference.
But I'm saying he's been dead a long time, and his estate still continues to generate lots and lots and lots of money through merchandising and licensing and all of those other things. It's a machine that keeps making money, and I would imagine, I don't know, but I would imagine that his estate is still making crazy money, despite the fact that he's been dead since the late 80s. So
so it's interesting, that card.
Yeah.
I don't know. Good work can come from bad habits, but the bad habits got the best of Basquiat.
The bad habits did him in, for sure. So I guess, unfortunate, but that's the statistical fact of it. So.
All right. So speaking of good works, we got to see a lot of good works a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and this is one of at the Sioux City Art Center. I think this is it's one of the first that we've done together.
Like went somewhere?
Yeah.
It was the first.
If you go back in the archives, there's the Speed Museum in Kentucky, which we were technically at together, but I didn't film any of it with you.
I didn't go into the museum.
Right.
Because it was closed every time we went.
Right. So that was kind of a weird deal, but there was that from the archives.
Yeah.
And then I've gone to the Des Moines Art Center a few times, but you haven't been involved. I have never been there.
This was the first art center I had ever been to.
Was it really?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, be that as it may, I mean, with this particular, I mean, it wasn't. I wouldn't say that the Sioux City Art Center is like, holy smokes, you're going to see the greatest pieces of artwork you've ever seen. But it really had some good pieces. It had some good contemporary work. It had some good pieces that were of something of a historical relevance to them. There were some pieces that weren't particularly new. I think I looked at pieces that were early 1900s to made last year. So, they weren't. It wasn't the oldest collection that I've seen or that we've talked about on Art 101. It's not, but it's certainly a contemporary collection. And I guess I
loved was it on the main floor that it had the different themes? Like it had 3 rooms that were like earth, fire, and wind, maybe, or
air. Like it was
earth,
like
air. Yeah, it was
like elements.
I thought that was cool. I loved the themes around that in each of the rooms.
And I think that them showing their collection in that way, was pretty unique. When you've got your own private collection and you're showing it in a certain way or whatever, it is what it is.
Those were the more contemporary pieces on that first floor.
Yeah, but again, it was a mix. I mean, like I said, in that collection, there were pieces that were, early 1900s, like 19 teens. All the way to like Grant Wood in the 1920s, 1930s, all the way to stuff that was made in the 2020s. So, I guess I thought it was a pretty good cross section of time.
My favorite piece you included in there, which was the salvage art from Bart Vargas?
Vargas.
I thought that was so cool. It was called "There Are Places on the Map That Don't Exist."
Yeah,
I thought that was my favorite piece. Which
Which again, it was a really cool, like a big globe piece, like a, it was definitely one of those pieces that was obviously intended to make you think.
Right.
And in his use of salvage materials and his use of assembly on something like that, obviously.
Just the creative aspect of that. Just what in his mind made him think.
And in the 21st century, I mean, there's a lot of people that I think are going to see a piece like that and be like, what is that about? And they're going to want to maybe dive a little deeper into.
Yeah, have you ever thought about doing that, salvage art? It seems like a cool concept to me.
I mean, I've done some projects around that, but I wouldn't say. I mean, I will say that my map thing is
true
in that
vein,
in that realm, without really being that. But
how are you doing on that? Have you been up? I lost track of your.
I lost track of myself too. I think it's one of those where, I mean, I was going really good for 15 days or so, and then I went to North Carolina to pick up my youngest children for a stay, and I finished a class. I started a class for teaching. I've got 2 children under the age of 6 that have a lot of energy and they require a lot of time and a lot of focus, and I don't get to see them a lot during the year, so I put things to the side.
So when's the last one that you did?
A couple days ago. I haven't touched it. I haven't really done anything with it for a couple of days.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
And so it's, I still feel like I'm going to hit my goal. I can still easily hit my goal of 70. but I think that I'm going to be honest with you. My kids are a higher priority than making sure that I get a coloring done every day. My classes, I mean, if I want to teach, I gotta have these relicense credits. Anybody that's in education knows that you gotta jump through hoops and do the work and do these things. And I'm being selective in the classes that I'm taking. I'm trying to take classes that I think are going to be actually useful and beneficial, not just taking something to take it. So I'm being selective in what I'm doing, and but also trying to taking classes that I can take at my own pace.
Right.
So that, because with 2 kids and with an unknown schedule, and Father's Day is coming up in the not too distant future here in the next week or so, and so
lots going on.
Trying to organize things and keep things in mind for all of that. I mean, it's and also picking up, and next year I'll be teaching prospective teachers in college classes, so I'm trying to get things ready for that. And so, yeah, lots of irons in the fire that I'm shuffling and trying to make right. And I mean, you know what it is. You know what I'm talking about.
No, I know.
You've got to organize your kids and your life and all that. And when it's like, okay, it's Wednesday, let's record an art podcast. Well, you know what? It is what it is. You might hear footsteps in the background. You might hear giggling. You might hear laughing. You might hear kids watching TV. I mean, it is what it is, because you know what? We're parents first, and everything else kind of gets in line. And it's like, okay, kids, we're going to work. Give us half an hour, and when things happen, and you got to reshuffle and you got to reorganize.
You're getting kind of wordy here.
I am. Thanks, Pod Boss.
All right, so I'm reeling you back in now.
You done it.
So speaking of education and learning something, the Grantwood piece you talked about in the video, the visit to SDAC, you talked about painting by subtraction, which I've never heard of before, which sounds crazy difficult to me. But that was a cool... So explain that a little bit.
And again, I'm going to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I can't say that I have any real knowledge of how to do it, because it's beyond my experience.
Okay.
But basically what he did was he had an assistant who would tone and put the colors down. And then he would go in with a brush and a rag and his fingers and just kind of manipulate the paint that was kind of fresh on there, right? So when it was still wet, he would just kind of go in there and pick and move it, and then. And the other thing about that particular mural, if you will, is that a lot of it, like when we went to see it, it's all kind of drab.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, it's not real. It doesn't really pop. But that's because the glue or whatever it is that they put over the top of the mural, when they took it off, when they took the wallpaper off or whatever it is they put on top of it, when they took that off of there, it took some of the paint off with it, and it ended up, damaging. They could never, no matter how much they went into it and redid it, they could never bring it back to what it was when it was freshly painted. So what you see is kind of a shadow of what it was. Very much like Leonardo da Vinci in The Last Supper. Within da Vinci's own lifetime, The Last Supper started falling off the wall, and he had to go back in and retouch it. And for centuries, people have been going in and retouching it. And very little of what you see on the wall as The Last Supper is actually what was painted by the hand of Leonardo da Vinci. But it's that skeleton of what was. And we appreciate it for that, as opposed to this being a precise painting done solely by Leonardo da Vinci, because so many hands have touched it, so many layers of paint, and so many restorations have been done right on top of the thing that, I mean, it very little. But again, it's that essence of what it was in the day, and that's true of this Grant Wood painting too. You gotta have to look at it with a kind of a filtered lens.
I think the more you looked at, like at first I looked at it and I was like, I don't know, not impressed. But the more you looked at it, the more you saw in the picture. Like I think you put that, what's this? No shouting. What did it say? No shouting allowed or no
shooting.
No shooting allowed.
No shooting.
Shooting allowed. But I didn't see that. It took me a while before I saw that. Like your eyes start to zoom in, and then you see some of the details in the background, which is what I thought was cool.
And again, it's a very, it's very much a period piece. It's a very 1920s Iowa, Not that I know anything of what 1920s Iowa was. You probably have a better idea than I do, since you're so much older than me, but...
Yep.
but
there's the literal part of you.
But the 19... that old school farmer sign, put up along the corn row, saying, I don't want hunters on my property, no hunting, no shooting, that, and again, it's a great piece, and it's got an interesting history to it. And I think that it's interesting to bring things like that up and think about those things and What was your favorite? I know you never want to say favorites, but in that particular art center, what was your favorite? I think that the Sioux City surprised me with having a really good collection of pieces. My personal favorite that I was probably most drawn to was the Klaus Oldenburg painting of the Caruso umbrella, which was done with a different color scheme, but yet the same flavor, the same style of what he did in downtown Des Moines at the what was once called Nolan Plaza. I don't know if it's still called Nolan Plaza, across from the Civic Center, which is where Caruso umbrella is, the big umbrella by Klaus Oldenburg. But when I see sketches like that, when I see like a sculptor who's made some sketches or preparatory drawings, that to me is just fascinating. How they go through the process of coming up with the idea for the sculpture isn't just the sculpture, it's the drawings and the plans and all of the things that go along with it. Just like, we had talked about previously with the Picassos, and how he did a series of plans to come up with what he was going to paint. Or other artists that are, like Grant Wood, before he painted American Gothic, he just had an envelope and did a sketch on the back of an old envelope and just said, okay, this is kind of what I'm thinking, this is kind of what I want to do, and then that's that little ingredient of, the beginning nucleus of an idea. Yeah. And, trying to put some science words in so I sound smarter than I am.
It's too late for
that.
Words. Well, I think the thing that I find the most interesting is just like the fact that we went to Sioux City, Iowa, where really I'd never even been there, and I've lived in Iowa all my life, and there was a really cool art center there. So hopefully we'll find some more places like that. And
to be honest with you, that was a big part of the motivation why I went there too.
Oh yeah, you think? Yes.
I mean, just for the opportunity to go and see some art, and
yeah.
I mean, it was there, and You know?
I think if anybody, like in the comments, if someone wants to give us some ideas of other places to go that aren't too far.
Little art museums,
Yeah.
anywhere. I mean, who knows?
We need to get away, clearly.
Even if there are individuals that are affiliated with art centers or whatever that want to let us come in and take a look at your collection, and I mean, shoot, we could do a whole podcast right there on site in the facility.
Clearly, we're
mobile.
That's right. We're flexible. We're mobile. We need to travel, get away from kids.
Well,
I do.
Kids and work and life and
just get away.
We just want to look at art. Well, I do. You want to travel and explore and whatever.
Connect with people.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part of it.
Anyway, we should. What do you think?
Wrap it up.
Yeah, we're probably at that point or beyond. We've probably outstayed our welcome tonight.
I think so. All right. Well, thanks for watching.
Yeah. And make sure that you check us out on all platforms. You know, you can, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, shoot me a line or a message if you have comments or questions or anything like that or whatnot. You can find me all over social media. You can also find Nichole all over social media, especially here on.
You just called me Nichole.
I know.
I've never heard you call me Nichole.
On YouTube, and I put a link to her right up here, and so you can find her with ease.
Awesome. And
hopefully, she can give you some guidance, and we can give you some guidance, and together you'll be guided. It'll be the guiding light, minus the, soap opera drama.
You need to go to bed, I think.
All right, it's bedtime.
Yeah. All right. See ya, everyone.